When you're going through trials in your life, you gotta speak resilience in your life.
What's up, amazing humans? It's your girl, Tissima J, also known as Speak Resilience in the building A. And we have the amazing and talented Kenyatta McKinnon on the show today. We're going to be talking about this book that she has written called Bridging the Gap. And you are going to have the opportunity to meet Kenyatta McKinnon when you come to the 2022 Impact and Influence Authors Conference. So I'm excited, you guys, about what we're going to learn in Bridging the Gap and just exploring some of the topics and nuances, the purpose, the vision, and all kinds of great things Kenyatta has to share. Hello, Kenyatta. How are you?
Hello, how are you? I'm doing good.
So grateful that you decided to be on the show. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tissima.
All right. So let's jump right into it.
Sure.
What made you write Bridging the Gap?
So, I saw the need with all the unjustified shootings that were taking place in this country, and the fact that I, have been in law enforcement for 23 years, and I've had experience on the law enforcement side as well as the community side, and I just saw a need that we need to bridge the gap, and because I saw that need and because I have, extensive experience in this area, it just made me say, I need to write a book and people need to read and understand what we can do to, not only, make sure that we try to, resolve the problem, but that we come together as a unity. And one of the things that really made me look at it is, the media really concentrates on African Americans, but my book not only talks about African Americans getting unjustifiably shot, but also whites, also Hispanics, also Asians. So different cultures are being affected by this. And so I felt the need for the public to have more knowledge and insight on what takes place from the law enforcement side as well as the community side, so that we can start bridging the gap, so we can get an understanding, so everybody can come together to kind of cut down on some of these unjustified shootings that are taking place in this country.
So what I really love is that you mentioned your background and experience. You have been in law enforcement for quite a while, like enough time that you could gather resources, gather information, gather statistics, have tangible interactions with people to be able to have the conversations that many of us as civilians, I'll go ahead and say, may not be able to have.
Sure.
So what inspired you to kind of bring the change about in this area? Because shootings are happening across the globe. And like you said, you're drawing attention to all the different categories. So what inspired you to want to bring about change in those current issues?
What inspired me was, I look at the community, I look at the people that are being affected by deaths that are occurring across this country from police shootings. And I'm well versed in this area. And I think about families, it's somebody's mother or father or aunt or cousin or, dear friend. So I think that the dynamics and the circumstances that I've seen over my 23-year, career, as well as me, having a bachelor's and a master's degree in criminal justice, it just inspired me to really help people. At the end of the day, I have a passion to help people. And in order to be in law enforcement, you have to have that kind of personality, right? Where you like to help people because you're a public servant. And so what inspired me was just so many stories that were taking place of, people that were dying, and, some of it was justified, some of it wasn't. But what inspired me was, what can we do to come together to make it better so that, we don't have all of this senseless, killing going on. And so that was really an inspiration for me. And I have a passion for people. And that's what inspired me to move forward with writing this book.
So Kenyatta, I'm so grateful that you not only it's always nice to talk to an educated Black woman. I'm gonna just throw it out there really for what it is. We're gonna call a spade, okay? An educated Black woman working within the field of law enforcement, understanding the tangible challenges that are facing so many communities. Obviously, you have heard 9,999 myths about police officers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Can you dive into that a little bit? Because it's not just your intellect that you bring to the table. The intellect helps to add that much more value to all of the things that are out there. And of course, all the things that you're doing to pour into the community. And this book is a part of that.
Sure.
So I am curious to know what some of the myths are that you've heard and that you could bring and shed light to through this book.
In my book, I talk about myths that people have about police officers. The first myth is that police officers are perfect. They have an unblemished record. They may not have been, involved in misdemeanors, offender benders, and it's not true. Everybody has a past. Everybody has a background, not a criminal background, but a lot of people think that police officers are perfect people, and I wanted people to know that we're not. We come in to help, but we also are human, and we have things that that we have experience in life. Another thing is they said that as a police officer you need to know how to shoot a firearm. Absolutely not true. When I first started law enforcement 23 years ago, I had no knowledge whatsoever on how to shoot a firearm, a gun. And through training and just learning it, I was able to become very efficient at it. But it's not anything that's needed that you should be an expert in order to be in law enforcement. And then another myth is that officers don't have fear. We're human. We absolutely have fear. I think a lot of times when we come into confrontations and, situations, we always use caution because, it's always that possible chance that you may not come back home, So one mistake, it could cost you your life. Another thing is, that female officers are the only people that get sexually harassed. Not true. Over my span of career, I've seen, male officers get harassed. So it's on both sides of the aisle. And the last myth that I thought was very important to talk about, and I talk about others, but the last myth was that police officers wake up in the morning ready to shoot and kill somebody. It's absolutely not true. If anything, we want to go back home safe to our families, our children. We have families, we have children, we have things that we do outside of, law enforcement. I'm also in ministry. So, I do a lot of things. And so when I hear that, it just really saddens me that, people have this perception of police officers like, all we want to do is just kill people. And that's very much a myth. The majority of the coworkers that I work with and just over my span of career through my experience, a lot of us, it's traumatic when we have to, encounter or go through something like that. So I think it's important for the public to know that.
I love that you mentioned that because I think there is such a disconnect from within our society and culture, specifically in the African American culture. There's such a disconnect with the humanity in a police officer. And that sounds, for me, that sounds harsh. And it kind of breaks my heart to even verbalize it that way. But it's something that I've seen over and over again where, they come up with these terms to describe the police, the goats or the what do they call them? They have, the bears or whatever, they have different names that they use to describe, and they're not saying this officer and gentleman, this nice officer, young lady. We are taught to respect the firemen. We're taught to respect the doctors, right? But what you're sharing and expressing is the importance and valuable aspects of also respecting law enforcement and understanding and seeing it from a different lens, a different perspective.
Absolutely.
I'm raising 3 boys. Well, they're almost done being raised. They're 16, 17, and 24,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So I think about what it's like for them being pulled over and how that's coming. And for one, it's already happened, and that makes me nervous. So what would you say are some of the do's and don'ts when an officer has to pull you over? Now, come on, everybody. I need you to dial it in now. We get some wisdom right here. All right. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Kenyatta. I'm going to give you the floor now.
Absolutely.
Listen.
So, I tell people all the time, one of the things that people tend to do when a police officer pulls them over is they tend to get offended. And one of the things that I tell, youth when I, have these summits and these conferences and I speak to them, I tell them that the nicer you are to the officer, the better the outcome. This is my thing. If the officer pulls you over and you feel like it wasn't justified or that the officer did something that they shouldn't have did, I tell people you can get the officer's name and badge number. You can always sue them later. But initially, while the initial stop is going on, whatever they're asking you for, just go ahead and comply, because people have to remember it's temporary. You will eventually be away from the officer. Where if you need to file a report, or if you need to sue, or if the officer did something unlawful to you, you'll get that opportunity. And I think people are so judgmental and so harsh, and just, because of everything that's happened, they really hate the police, or they really don't like the police. Instantly, when the police pull them over, they've already have a preconceived notation about the police, and they already are on the negative, already on the defense. And I tell people the best thing to do is just comply. I mean, it's okay to follow instructions for a short period of time, be out of that situation, and then later on you can always go back and you can sue, or you can go back and you can get the officer's name and number, because the officer, if he cites you and writes you a ticket or anything, all of his information will be on that ticket anyway, or whatever he's giving you or whatever he's citing you for. But I tell people, just wait. You can always come back later and sue. Don't be on the defense. Don't have an attitude. Be calm. Comply. Do what the officer says. When you get out of that situation, then you can, get an attorney or tell somebody if you feel like what the officer did was unjustifiable. And I think that a lot of people, they already have this attitude when the officer pulls them over, they pissed or they fed up, or why are you pulling me over, and all of this kind of stuff, which in turn really causes the officer now to be more on the defense and be aggressive instead of, just being able to just, say whatever they're citing the person for so they can move on. So I tell young kids, especially young, boys and girls driving, just do what the officer says. It doesn't hurt to comply for 15, 20 minutes, and later on take it up, in a different manner. But for right now, just let the officer be in control. It's not, the officer ain't gonna be in control forever. There'll be a time where you'll be able to do your own thing, but for right now, just comply, because that'll keep down a lot of contention between the officer and whoever the officer is pulling over.
Ms. Kenyatta, I'm thinking about what you're saying, and I can only hear both sides, right? That's the gift that we have in hosting. We want the one side to come out, and then we want the clarity of the other side. So the other side for me would be, and this is just the way I'm processing it. So I'm putting on my inner Kenyatta, if you will.
Sure.
If I had the thought process to say, well, what if the officer is being mean to me or rude to me, or I know that officer might be having a bad day? How is it my responsibility to comply if the officer is not being positive towards me?
Sure.
And my inner Kenyatta response is that everybody has a bad day. People are not perfect. Officers are skilled to do a certain job. And just like people might do the wrong thing, there are moments when officers might not make the right decision.
Absolutely.
So we leave room for both sides. We leave room for the grace. Just like there are some people who are out there doing the wrong thing. If the officer just assumed that person wasn't having a bad day, then there would be chaos everywhere on both sides.
Very true.
So thank you for enlightening me. That was my inner Kenyatta coming out there.
It was awesome too. Yeah.
Thank you. So how then do we bridge the gap? No pun intended. Boom. How do we bridge the gap?
So we bridge the gap by a couple of things. The first thing is creating a community forum open for not only the community, but the law enforcement. I think that it's important for law enforcement officers that are serving a specific community. I think it's important for them to get to know that community that they're serving. Knock on the door, talk to the parents, talk to the children, get to know the children that live in the neighborhood, interact with the kids, have a weekly meeting. If you're an officer assigned to a specific community every day of the week, except on your 2 off days, then on one of those days, take 30 minutes to an hour and just get to know the community and the community that you're servicing. Because I realize when we form relationships with community and we form relationship with kids that live within that community, a lot of misunderstandings are cut down by half. And it's all about knowing the community that you serve. You can interact, you can have forums, you can, and that way the community is familiar with the officer, but the officer is also familiar with the people in that community. So when something is out of order or something is not right in that community, the officer will instantly know, because the officer already has formed a relationship with people that live within that community that they're serving. And so that is one of the strongest things I think that we can do to bridge the gap, is to form relationships with not only the parents, but the children that live in that community. So when an officer is called to that community to respond to something, the officer has inside knowledge on what may be going on with that particular family or that particular home, or, that particular community. So it's good to know the community that you're serving.
I love that you say that. Building relationships, like I know for lots of people, lots of communities, that would definitely help bridge the gap, is building relationships. Mm-hmm. I think as a consultant, which of course you have McKinnon Associates, as well, mm-hmm. within all of these wonderful things that you're doing in the community, continuing mm-hmm. to pour in, educating the community, not just providing books, which books are great. We all need to read. We all need to grow and be better. But you are functioning in developing and building relationships by going out, speaking to the public, talking to them about the gap that does exist, and educating corporations on how to help bridge the gap. Absolutely. It's so necessary, the work you're doing. And I feel so honored that you took the time to be on the show to just talk about and spread the word about what you're doing with bridging the gap. If people would like to purchase your book, where should they go in order to do so?
They can go to associates.com, and they can also, it's available on Amazon.com as well. But there is a link on McKinnonAssociates.com that will direct you to be able to purchase the book. So, they can feel free to press that link, and it'll take them to where they can purchase the book.
Absolutely. Well, Ms. Kenyatta McKinnon, it has been my absolute pleasure interviewing you and just getting to know you a little better. You guys remember to check her out on the 2022 Impact and Influence Authors Conference. Again, my name is Taseema J, also known as Speak Resilience, in the building. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Taseema.
you so much, Kenyatta.
God bless you.
Make it a great day. Thank you.
Too.
God bless you too.
Thank you.
3 things. Firefly Poetry and Open Mic Night is every second Wednesday at Gillies Sports Bar in Dunwoody. Check out our IG profile at Speak Resilience for more info on how you can become a featured performer. Check out StacksB.com to hire your musical technician. StacksB Entertainment provides DJ services for corporate events, birthday parties, and much more. Make your contribution count with a donation to HUMS, Uplifting Hearts, Minds, and Souls, a nonprofit with a mission to help domestic violence victims in a major way. Don't forget to like or tweet or subscribe and support us, sister. Leave a message. Check out speakresilience.com. As always, it's been real. Thank you in advance to Creative Arts International, ACX Marketing, Stacksby Entertainment, and all contributors who have helped to make this TV show possible. A special thanks to Jimbo for the beautiful intro and outro. Check him out on SoundCloud and all major social media platforms.
When you're going through trials in your life, you gotta speak resilience in your life.